we're going to learn Kol Yisrael. Maimer the Rebbe said Shabbos Mevarchim Iyar, Parshas Achrei, in 1973. The reason, seemingly, why the Maimer is titled Kol Yisrael Yesh Lam Chilek Elam Haba, is because this Shabbos, this coming Shabbos, we begin reading Pirkei Avos Shabbos afternoon. So we start studying ethics of our fathers every Shabbos afternoon from now until the New Year, till Rosh Hashanah. And before we begin learning the chapter of the week, we open with an introduction, which is a quote from a Mishnah in Masechta Sanhedrin, Kol Yisrael Yesh Lam Chelek La'olam Haba. Shenemar va'amech kulam tzadikim. Right, we're all familiar with that Mishnah. Okay, so that's now's the season. So let's get into the Maimer. Kol Yisrael Yesh Lam Chelek La'olam Haba. All of Israel has a portion in the world to come. What does it mean when we say La'olam Haba, the world to come? So we know that the term Olam Haba, the world to come, could mean a few things. There's the famous dispute between the Rambam and the Ramban, Maimonides and Nachmanides, about what the ultimate reward is for life in this world. And they all talk about Olam Haba. What's Olam Haba? And the sages talk about Olam Haba, the world to come. So one understanding of Olam Haba, the world to come, means the time of the resurrection. That's the world to come. It's not here yet, and that is coming. So that's why it's called Olam Haba, the world that is yet to come. Another meaning of Olam Haba is Olam Haba, the world to come, means the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden, meaning where souls go after a person passes away. They go to Olam Haba, they go to the world to come, which is, there are people presently, all the souls of the departed that are presently in Gan Eden, that are in heaven, in the Garden of Eden, they're in the world to come. So why do we call it the world to come? Because we mean the world to come following this world. After a person lives life in this world, they go to the world that comes afterwards, the world to come. So Olam Haba could mean either heaven, or it could mean the resurrection, Mashiach's time. So, but here in this statement in the Mishnah, that every Jew has a portion in the world to come. The world to come here can only mean one thing. The Pirush Olam Haba b'Mishnah Zu, the understanding, the meaning of the words Olam Haba in this Mishnah is Olam Hatchia, the world of the resurrection, meaning the time of Tchias HaMesim. That's what it means here. As is also apparent from the continuation of the Mishnah. The Mishnah lists all the things that it says that everybody has a portion of the world to come, and that meaning Tchias HaMesim, and then it lists things or people that are excluded from that. So the general rule is that everybody has a part in it. And then then the Mishnah lists exclusions. And one of the exclusions is Ve'elu she'elam chelek haba. These are those who don't have a portion of the world to come. Ha'emer ein Tchias HaMesim min ha'Torah. One who denies the concept of the resurrection, says that the concept of resurrection is not in the Torah. It's not found in the Torah. Why is somebody who denies that truth, why are they denied of the resurrection, of being resurrected? Because the reason for this is, as the Gemara explains, who kafar b'tchias hamesim lefichach la'yeh lo'chelek b'tchias hamesim chulu. Mida keneged mida. So the Gemara explains, why is it? Because since he denies the resurrection, so therefore he is excluded from that concept, from the resurrection. Why? Because it's mida keneged mida. It's measure for measure. Person that denies it is not given. It's harsh, but the point is, in other words, it's almost as if they're excluding themselves from it by saying it's not from the Torah, meaning that they don't agree with the whole concept. If you don't want it, you don't get it. The truth is that Chassidus explains that really everybody has Tchias HaMesim. Really, Kol Yisrael, that even the ones that are listed that don't, really even they do as well. It's explained in the Rebbe talks about it in a few places as well, that what exactly that means then, that those, why does the Mishnah say that there are those who don't? Ultimately, everybody does. But that's not for now. Okay, so clearly, if we're saying that the people that don't have a portion in Olam Haba are people that deny Tchias HaMesim, and that's measure for measure. So obviously, Olam Haba here means the world of the resurrection. Because why would somebody who denies the resurrection be denied heaven? How's that measure for measure? He's denying resurrection, and therefore you're going to deny him from heaven. What does one have to do with the other? So clearly, when the Mishnah says that everybody has a portion in the world to come here means the world of the resurrection, the time of the resurrection. The Kol Yisrael and then this is what the Mishnah then tells us, that everybody has a portion in the world to come. Everyone. So number one, we're saying that, how do we see this? Because the Mishnah itself lists people that don't have a portion, and we're saying that it excludes those who deny the resurrection. So clearly, when we say Olam Haba, we mean the resurrection. But furthermore, it can't mean Gan Eden, meaning heaven, because we know that to get to heaven is not everybody's welcome in heaven. The Gan Eden ksiv, with regard to Gan Eden, it says, Mi ala b'haravaya gomer nekikapayim uvar levav there. That with regard to Gan Eden, it says, Mi ala b'haravaya, who will ascend the mountain of God? And the mountain of God is a reference to Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, to heaven. And who can go up? Only one who is nekikapayim, was clean hands, and is person who has a pure heart. Sheyeshnam kama tanoim b'chtei lalis l'Gan Eden. Meaning that there are all kinds of conditions to allow somebody to go up to Gan Eden. Afilu Gan Eden atachten, even to the lower level of Gan Eden. Because we know there, but we talked about, I think, in a previous memoir, on other occasions, we talked about the fact that there are many levels of Gan Eden. So generally, Gan Eden is divided into the lower Gan Eden and the higher Gan Eden, but even within the lower and higher are myriads of levels of Gan Eden. So even to get into the lowest level of Gan Eden there are certain conditions and standards that have to be met. However, with regard to the time of the resurrection, Kol Yisrael everybody has a portion. Everybody will be part of the experience of the resurrection. So when we talk about Gan Eden, heaven, the verse or the general teaching is the exact opposite. When it comes to resurrection, we say everybody is welcome. Everybody has a part in it, and then we list some exceptions. But with Gan Eden, it's the exact opposite. When we talk about heaven, it says, who could get to heaven? Meaning, really, nobody should get to heaven. If you want to get to heaven, you have to do X, Y, and Z. You have to be of this caliber, of this standard in order to get to heaven. So they're the exact opposites. Heaven is a lot more exclusive, and Gan Eden is all, and the resurrection is all inclusive. So that's the difference. We see the contrast between Gan Eden and Tchias HaMeisim is that Gan Eden is limited, and you have to meet a certain standard. And Tchias HaMeisim seems to be unconditional, almost, where everybody has a part in the resurrection. So we have to understand, we have to understand that the revelation that will be, the divine revelation that will be during the time of the resurrection is a lot greater than the one that will be that is experienced in Gan Eden in heaven. Let's take a look at note 7. Kedas Ramban b'shar Agmul b'seifai, v'chein hu ha'achra b'teres achsidis. Right, we're saying that Gan Eden, that Tchias HaMeisim, the time of the resurrection, is a much greater spiritual revelation than in heaven. And as we see, the Rebbe quotes, we mentioned earlier the dispute between the Ramban and the Rambam. So the Ramban says that the ultimate reward is Tchias HaMeisim. So if that's the ultimate, then it means obviously that it's greater, it's higher than Gan Eden, which comes before it is not the ultimate. And the Rebbe says that Chassidus discusses, sides with the Ramban. In this dispute between Rambam and Ramban, Chassidus takes the side of the Ramban, that the ultimate reward is the time of Tchias HaMeisim, the resurrection. Interestingly, the Alter Rebbe brings only, in the Mamar where he talks about this, brings only the opinion of the Ramban, meaning that Chassidus comes very strongly in support of, on the side of the Ramban, that the ultimate experience, the ultimate reward is Tchias HaMeisim. So we see, if that's the ultimate, then clearly the revelation in Tchias HaMeisim, the divine revelation that will be experienced during Tchias HaMeisim, during the resurrection, is a lot greater than the revelation in Gan Eden, in heaven. And this is true not only of the lower Gan Eden, but Gam Agilish Gan Eden Elyon, even the higher level of Gan Eden. Gam Adrega Achinailish Gan Eden, even the higher level of even the highest of levels of Gan Eden. Since ultimately Tchias HaMeisim comes after all of Gan Eden, including the highest levels of Gan Eden, so therefore, since it comes after, it's the ultimate reward, so it's higher than even the highest level of Gan Eden. So this is true because that's what it says in the books. The Sfarim tell us that that Tchias HaMesim is a higher level than Gan Eden. But now the Rebbe points out that this is, which we can make even a logical argument for this. That we can even understand this, we can deduce this idea to conclude that Tchias HaMesim is greater than Gan Eden from the concept of Tchias HaMesim itself. Why? The Yakumu l'Tchia Kol Yisrael. When we talk about Tchias HaMesim, so we're talking about the resurrection of all of the Jewish people. Even the souls that have been in Gan Eden for thousands of years. So you talk about souls that have been in Gan Eden for thousands of years. And it's not just that they're sitting in Gan Eden in the same place for thousands of years, but they're constantly going higher and higher. They're always going from strength to strength to a higher level and yet a higher level. And not only is this going on over the course of 3,000 years, but imagine 3 times a day they reach a higher level. That's why it says they're never resting. They're always moving. They're always on the move. In Gan Eden, they're always reaching higher and higher, and 3 times a day they reach higher. We say in davening, Kedoshim b'chol yom yalucha sela, that the Kedoshim, the holy ones, every single day yalucha sela, they praise you forever. So yahalucha, the word halal, to praise, also means to rise, to go higher. So the meaning is Kedoshim, meaning the souls, because we call them Kedoshim, holy. So Kadosh, we know also, we've discussed this idea of Kadosh. Holiness means that it's separate. Separate from what? Separate from anything material, really. Anything physical. So the souls in heaven are Kedoshim, they're holy because they're detached from the physical. So we call them holy. And so these holy souls, the ones that are in Gan Eden, Yahalucha Sel, they're constantly reaching higher. And that happens 3 times a day. The 3 times a day they go higher and higher. So imagine a soul that's been in Gan Eden for 3,000 years. There's an expression that the souls of the Aves and Moshe Rabbeinu that have been in Gan Eden for 3,000 years. Also, another Maimon Rebbe talks about why we combine the Aves, and the Aves have been in Gan Eden for over 4,000 years, or for about 4,000 years. Moshe Rabbeinu has been there for a little over 3,000 years. But yet there's a concept of 3,000 years. It represents a certain higher level, or the reaching the greatest heights, attaining the greatest heights. And so the souls that have been in heaven for so long, that have been reaching higher and higher every single day, imagine how high up they are. And yet, nevertheless, as high as they are on this high perch in Gan Eden, nevertheless, when in the time of the redemption, they will be re-enclothed in bodies. Because the revelation of the time of the resurrection is far greater than that of Gan Eden. Even more than the highest level of Gan Eden. So in other words, the fact that souls that have been in Gan Eden for so long, meaning that they've reached the highest levels, I mean, obviously it's infinite levels, but as high as they can reach in Gan Eden, nevertheless, they're still going to come down with the resurrection. So if the resurrection is a lower level than Gan Eden, so why would so maybe somebody who's in a lower level Gan Eden, they should have resurrection, because resurrection is higher than the lower one. But Avraham Avinu, Moshe Rabbeinu, why would they come down here? So obviously the fact that they're going to be resurrected means that the resurrection is even greater than the highest levels of Gan Eden. So it's not just that the books are telling us that that resurrection is greater than Gan Eden, but logically it would make sense that if somebody who's in heaven, in the highest levels of heaven, is going to be resurrected, then clearly that we're talking about reaching a higher level through resurrection. So nevertheless, and yet, notwithstanding the fact that we're saying that Gan Eden is a lower level and resurrection is a higher level, nevertheless we're saying that in order to get to Gan Eden, which is the lower level, that you need to meet certain criteria. And to get to Tchias HaMesim, which is even higher, there seem to be no criteria. That'll be for everybody. So how does that fit? It would seem that to reach the higher thing, to attain the higher thing, you should have to have, that should be more exclusive. And yet we see the opposite. So So in order to explain this, why it is that if Tchias HaMesim is greater than Gan Eden, yet it seems to be completely inclusive, and Gan Eden is exclusive, so we first have to understand what it means when we say that Tchias HaMesim, that the world of the resurrection, the time of the resurrection, is greater than Gan Eden. How is it possible that could be? So we're saying that that's the fact, that Tchias HaMesim is greater, but we have to understand this. What's the problem? The l'chayra, Seemingly, given Gan Eden who Eilam Neshamas B'lei Gufim, you would think that Gan Eden should be greater than Tchias HaMesim. Why? Because Gan Eden is for souls without bodies. After a person passes away, they go to heaven. What goes to heaven? Just the soul. The body is buried. Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection, resurrection means the soul in a body. So if so, Ma Wabir B'Zeh Sheba'elam HaTchiyah Keshaneshama Tiyah Mulubeshes B'Guf Gashmi Yiyah Gilei Nali Yesem B'Gan Eden. So what is the explanation? How do we understand the concept that when a soul is in a body, that'll be a higher revelation than when the soul is without a body? What's the question? A body seems to, and we're going to flesh it out a little bit more now as we move on in chapter 2, but basically, a body seems to be an impediment to the soul. The soul is what perceives godliness. The soul is the part of us that feels its connection to God, that sees God. The body is what obstructs that view. The body conceals it, blocks it. So if that's the case, if we're talking about a revelation of godliness, when would somebody be more open to receive a revelation or to experience revelation? The less attached they are to their bodies. It says about the prophets. The prophets, to receive prophecy, lived like some kind of like an ascetic lifestyle. They were totally detached, as much as a human being living in the physical world could be, from physicality, in order to experience something divine, to have a divine revelation. So what does it mean when we say that Tchias HaMesim is greater than Gan Eden? If in order to receive divine revelation, one should be really detached from the body. So you could say, what's the problem? The problem is that the body is unrefined. It's physical, it's grub, it's coarse, and therefore the body conceals godliness. But were you to conceive of a body that's refined, so such a body wouldn't conceal godliness. Right? So we can say that the fact that the neshama comes into the body that's resurrected, so the resurrected body will be a refined body. And since it will be a refined body, so therefore it won't obstruct. Fine. So now we can understand why the body won't obstruct it. But to say that the body, that somehow that one can have a greater revelation because of the body, that's what we have to understand. So we're working towards that question. So Rebbe says like this: even though when in the time of redemption, the body will be completely refined. It'll be like the body of Adam Rishon that we find. The Adam Rishon was Yitzir Kapav Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Adam Rishon was fashioned by God, by the hand of God. And it says about Adam Shahoya Mache Galgal Chama, that Adam darkened the sun, meaning that his body was so radiant, spiritually radiant, that the sun was like dark compared to his body. What does it mean that he was radiant? Spiritually radiant. So if you say to Mizum, so furthermore, not only will the body in the times of Mashiach be, not only do we find from Adam Rishon the concept that a body won't conceal godliness, won't obstruct it, it's refined and it's therefore radiant and could project godliness, but when Mashiach comes, the neshama, the body will be even more refined than Adam Rishon's. How do we see that? Adam Rishon, as great as he was, and as we quote from the Medrash that his body was completely refined, that his body was like a soul, basically. Nevertheless, Adam Rishon was still susceptible to sin. So as great as he was, as refined as he was, as holy as he was, nevertheless, it was possible for him to commit a sin. When Mashiach comes, Ruach HaTamah Avrim min haaretz. There won't be any sin, there won't be any evil. So in that sense, there won't even be the possibility for sin. So we're talking about complete refinement, even greater than the refinement of Adam Rishon's body. Let's look at note 11. His body was completely refined and pure, like light. The body was like the matter that is close to the form, which is the tzur, which is the neshama. They were comparable. They were closely related. Meaning, we know the concept of Chaymer and Tzura, a concept that's brought a lot to explain in Chassidus. Chaymer we translate as matter, Tzura would be form. So generally we refer to Chaymer and Tzura. Chaymer would be the body, the material matter, and the Tzura, the form, the life force that animates it, that's the soul. So now, the soul and the body are very far from each other, very distant. One is spiritual, godly, holy, transcendent, and the other one is completely physical, material, coarse, self-centered, selfish. They're two different worlds. It says about Adam Rishon that his Chaymer and Tzura were close, meaning the body and the soul were almost the same. They're very close together. So the same is true. We're saying that it'll be lost in love. When Mashiach comes, the same idea is true here. We said earlier also here. Let's just go back a second to note 10, where he says that will be Yitzir, that Adam Rishon is Yitzir Kapah Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, fashion. He's formed by the hand of Hashem. So note 10, he says, Kivon Shava Yosei Shel Haguf Yeh MeHaKadosh Baruch Hu Al Yidei Tadchiyah L'chein Yeh K'may Gufei Shel Adam Rishon Yitzir Kapah Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. First of all, he's saying that the concept, we're saying that the body will be so refined that it won't obstruct godliness. How do we find a precedent for that? There's Adam Rishon. Adam Rishon's body was so refined that the Medrash says that it darkened the sun. That's how radiant it was, spiritually radiant. Fine, so that's true about Adam Rishon. Why is that Adam Rishon had such a body that's, like we said before, is the Chaymer is like close to the Tzura, meaning that the body was almost like the soul? Because his body was fashioned by God. Since his body, everybody else was born from parents, Adam Rishon was created by God. And so therefore his body was a different kind of body. So when Mashiach comes, everybody will have the same experience, because since all the neshamas and bodies, all the bodies will be resurrected. So who's resurrecting? Who's fashioning the bodies? Who's reconstructing the bodies that have decomposed, that have been laying in the ground for thousands of years? God. So just as Adam Rishon was fashioned by God, the same is true with regard to the souls that will be in the bodies. Those bodies of the resurrection will also be fashioned by God. And so we see that the bodies will be, in a sense, the same idea. Since they'll have that advantage of being fashioned by God, like the body of Adam Rishon, so they'll be refined. But not only that, the Rebbe says, furthermore, not only will it be refined, but there'll be even more, because by Adam Rishon there's still the possibility of sin. But when Mashiach comes, there won't be any of that. So it'll be a refined body in a refined world, so it'll be even greater. So we see that it's possible for the body not to obstruct. So today, that's something that we can't really comprehend. The concept that the body shouldn't interfere and obstruct a divine revelation, the body seems to be the exact opposite of it. Seems to constantly be in the way of it. So fine. So we see that it's possible there won't be. So the Rebbe says, the fact that we're saying that the body will be refined, so that only explains why the body will also be able to receive the divine revelation of the resurrection. It explains that. But that's not what we asked. If we would have asked, how is it possible for there to be a divine revelation to a body and a soul in a body in the time of resurrection? So that we answered, because the body will be refined. But that wasn't what we said. It doesn't address why the ultimate revelation is occurring specifically to a body, to a soul in a body. So the fact that the body doesn't obstruct, okay, so we got that. We already have precedent, we can understand that concept. But why is it that specifically the highest revelation is specifically to a soul in a body? That we didn't address. So that we still have to understand. Mr. Hashem will continue. Yeah. What time is it? Oh, I thought it was 10 after. Oh, we have time? Okay, good. I was cheating looking at your watch. Okay, good. Adrep. Perfect. Okay. So that even though when Mashiach comes and the body will be perfect, it'll still be a physical body. In other words, ultimately in the resurrection, when we're talking about a soul coming into a body, we're saying it'll be in a body. So notwithstanding the fact that the body will be completely refined, it's still a body. Otherwise we wouldn't call it a body. So it's still a body. And meaning that it's physical. And the Hagabal Shabadavar Gashmi Him Yoser Ma'Hagabal Shabadavar Ruchni. And the limitations for something physical are greater than the limitations of something spiritual. The limitations are greater. Ukemai. For example, the limitation of time and space, which are primarily something that affect something physical, material matter. He says be'ikr, in parentheses, be'ikr mainly, because there's also the concept of time and space, even in a spiritual sense, but not the ultimate spirituality. But the point is that something physical has limitations. To say something is physical already implies that there's time and space. Physicality is defined by time and space. It has its borders, it has its dimensions, it has the space it occupies. So if something occupies one space, nothing else can occupy that space. It can occupy multiple spaces at the same time. It's confined to its space. So physicality is, by its very nature, limiting. It's got parameters, it's got definition. And so therefore, it's something that's constricting. Even more so than spirituality. So we're talking about the divine revelation, something that's completely spiritual, and we're saying that it's something that will be experienced specifically to a soul in a body. So true, the body won't limit the revelation in a sense. It won't interfere with the revelation. But what should be able to truly experience an infinite revelation of godliness? The soul, not the body. The soul, which is spiritual, that doesn't have limitation. Unlike the body that is limited by its very definition. Nevertheless, in order for the soul to be able to experience the revelation of the resurrection, it has to be specifically as it's enclosed in a body. Let's look at notes 13 and 14. Note 13, we said that that la'asid lavei, when Mashiach comes, the soul, when Mashiach comes, so the revelation will be specifically to a soul in a body, even though the body the physical has greater limitations than the spiritual. So he says, 11, the mailas gufe shel adam rishim al derech zaguf she'il la'asid lavei she'hoya kechaymer el hatzura. What did we say when we discussed Adam Rishon's body? We said that it's like the chaymer, like the tzura, that the body was similar to the soul. But when we say that it's similar to the soul, when we say that the body is like the soul, what are we saying? So true, the body is close to the soul, but what's greater? Still the soul is superior. It's still a body versus a soul. So as refined and as translucent and transparent as the body might be, it's still a body, it's not a soul. Note 14, that we say that limitation is primarily physical. So he says, even though we find that in spirituality there's also time and spiritual time and space, even within the physical world. So the idea of thought, ideas don't take up any space. They don't take up physical space, but they do take up spiritual space. Right? You can't really think two thoughts simultaneously. Or at least most people can't. Can't think focus on two things at the same time. Why? Because the thought occupies a certain spiritual space and time as well. Can't do it simultaneously. So there is a certain concept of time and space in some way in spirituality. But that's only on a lower level of spirituality. But that's only because these spiritual things, the things that take up spiritual time and space, are only physical in comparison to the ultimate, the truly spiritual. That where the Alter Rebbe says, Alter Rebbe says, quotes over there, it says there's the concept of Seviv Kalalmin, and he says when we say Seviv Kalalmin, it doesn't mean that there's a space, that there's this world, Mamala Kalalmin. Then there's a space of Seviv Kalalmin that hovers around it, that surrounds it. There's no physical space, he says there. We don't mean it in a sense of even spiritual space. Even though he's talking about spiritual space, but it can't be understood in the same concept. There's no that ultimate spirituality doesn't even take up any space. Doesn't have any limitations in that sense. And so we see that the spiritual is limitless. And the physical is limited. So if that's the case, we've only explained why Tchias HaMeisim, the body, won't be an impediment to the revelations that the soul will experience. But ultimately, it has to limit it in some capacity because the body is limited, because it's a body. And it's still going to be a body. So how are we doing on time? We okay? 4 minutes. Nowadays, that makes this point even clearer. Now, when the souls that are in heaven, in order for a soul to experience the revelations in heaven, it needs to be completely removed from the physical, from the experience of the physical world. Not only from the physical world, but even spiritual dimensions, even spiritual experience, it has to be removed from. So now, for a soul to go up to heaven, it has to be completely removed from the physical. Before a soul can ascend to the Garden of Eden, to heaven, it needs to first immerse in the river of fire in order to forget, to be purged of the impression the physical world made on it. Because the fact that the soul was in this world, so therefore the physical world impedes its ability to experience, to absorb divine revelation, sort of unfiltered in heaven. And so therefore it needs to be cleansed of that impact. And not only when the soul is transitioning from the physical world to the spiritual world, but this is true even with regard, as we mentioned, remember, the souls are constantly ascending within Gan Eden itself, that with every ascent that the soul makes in heaven, it needs to forget the previous station it was at, in order to keep it from, in order to allow it to fully appreciate the higher level. This is true even within, when a person wants to be open to a new experience, so you need to be able to completely come in with a clean slate. If you're constantly connected to what you experienced before, everything that you'll experience in the future will be tainted or colored by that past experience. So you won't be able to fully absorb that experience. So in order to fully absorb something new, you need to forget what was in the past. So that's how it is with the neshama. When it goes up to heaven, it has to be purged of the experience of the physical world. And even within Gan Eden, when it goes from one level to a higher level, it has to be completely removed from the previous experience. And yet we're saying that in order to experience the higher revelation of the time of the redemption, it has to be specifically in a body. So we'll clarify this question, Mr. Shem. In the next class, we'll just review the question, and then we'll move on to an explanation.